It's a real honour for us to host you this evening. I think you're the 4th year, is that right, of students? And it's been 4 years of nothing but success. Cambridge students, Oxford students, and I gather this year that all of you have managed to get places at the universities of choice, which is 100% success rate. So Rose, congratulations to you and to your team. Your courses are an inspiration. I think it's marvellous that you're giving the opportunity to young people to study the arts at a time when the education ministry, frankly, doesn't understand how important it is for people to be able to read art history and to have it's not a privilege. It's not a privilege. It's not for the privileged to read art history. It really isn't. It's for everybody. And everybody has a view. And I'm looking forward to the talks that we're going to have about 3 paintings that we've got here from the students, to hear what they have to say. Because frankly, the artists themselves often don't know exactly why they're executing a work of art. They start and they finish. It's not for financial gain. If you talk to someone like Tracy Emin, it's all about herself, and she expresses herself in her pictures. And then we art historians or valuers of art impose our own thinking on her work of art, which she finds hilarious. She finds it very amusing. Lucian Freud was the same. He never understood why one picture was worth more than another. He thought they were all good. He thought they were all great. But then, of course, you know, the art market decides, people that collect it decide, and the viewer decides. And that is the beautiful thing. Art is the most democratic of any artistic environments, in my opinion. And, you know, it is a lingua franca that breaks so many boundaries. It creates wonderful opportunities for people such as yourselves. So I'm sure as you start your journeys, remarkable journeys in your own lives, you will hold that feeling that it's about your relationship with the cultural world that matters most. Everything else matters, of course, relationships, family, making a living, earning a living, but please go where your heart is, follow your heart, and it doesn't matter if it's to come and join us here at Christie's, welcome. It doesn't matter if it's join a museum, make a best shot of it. But actually, it's that sense of doing something that means a lot to yourself personally. So I look forward to finding out more about you in the coming years and learning of your successes.
It's an amazing graduation, isn't it, class of 2020? What a wonderful address. I founded the charity in 2016 because I taught art history A-level at a range of state schools for many years, and I'd seen how transformational the subject was for my students. I'd also seen, as Yussi said, it's being squeezed out of the curriculum. And I didn't see why art history should be restricted to the independent sector, or why it couldn't be taught firsthand in museums and galleries using the great works of art in our public collection. Like Yussi, I thought art history should be for everyone. And that's sort of what we've proved, haven't we, this evening? It really is. So for the last few years, we've offered free of charge art history AS, A-level, and extended project qualification courses to state-supported students on term time Saturdays, taught at the Wallace Collection or National Gallery. And the galleries very generously give us teaching space free of charge. Amazing. We've taught art history to well over 100 students from over 50 state-supported schools in and out of London. Many of our students may be at school during the week, in fact most of them are. Many have part-time jobs. They may have caring responsibilities, but they come to us every Saturday of their own free will, drawn together by the love of art and also of learning. It's a combination. We have an amazing teaching team, an amazing volunteer lecturers, but we're here to celebrate our amazing students, and especially the class of 2020. What a class, through a pandemic. It's wonderful. Obviously, we can only have a few of our students here, but we have in mind all the students of 2020 who can't be here with us today. We're very proud of you all. And we're thrilled that 6 of our A-level and EPQ students are here to represent not only the class of 2020, but all Art History Link-Up students past and present. So thank you so much for joining us and for your support of the class of 2020. And let's hear from some of our students and supporters on film.
I'm delighted to be able to drop in, even remotely, in order to congratulate the Art History Link-Up class of 2020 on their amazing achievements and their commitment to the study of the subject. In these very difficult times, engagement with creativity, our own creativity and the creativity of others, is more important than ever. And Art History Link Up shines out like a good deed in a very difficult time. Congratulations to you all and best wishes for the future.
I didn't even know there was such a subject as art history until I joined Art History Link Up. It helped me become more confident in navigating the gallery, a place which seemed intimidating at first, but now I would consider one of the places I feel most confident in.
The knowledge we have gained and the experience we have, it goes much further than exams, and I will forever be very proud to be an Art History Link Up student.
You've instilled a love of art in me that I will cherish forever. Thank you very much.
A very heartfelt congratulations to all of you from the Art History Link Up gang for having achieved such great grades in your A-levels and now going off to universities to study art history. From my point of view, it's brilliant news because we've got a new budding generation who will be studying art history and hopefully working in these great museums that we look after.
Coming from an area in which art history isn't offered anywhere that I know, I was really intrigued to see what the charity could do for me. And honestly, 2 years later, I'm so glad that I joined it. The academic achievements I achieved were beyond what I thought I could, and I think that's all down to the amazing teachers and the amazing resources online and in person.
Our students are as diverse in their background and outlook as are the topics they study, and yet they're united by certain characteristics too. These are eminently teachable students. They really respond well to mentoring, and they are voracious for knowledge and understanding, and therefore a joy to support.
It's so encouraging to know that art history is being supported and valued through your hard work and through that of this charity. I really do wish you all the very best for the future, whatever paths you may choose to follow, and my congratulations to you all.
I would just like to say thank you to all the teachers and my mentor who have been so amazing and so supportive throughout the project. You should strongly consider applying to Art History Link Up, for it is such an amazing opportunity.
I'm currently studying for a bachelor's degree in performance design and practice at Central St Martin's, and by taking part in Art History Link Up I was able to not only decide on that course but where I wanted to go and what it was I ultimately wanted to focus on. By taking part in art history with Art History Link Up, I was also able to build up a set of skills that have helped me throughout my degree and I still find myself using today, 2 years after I sat my exams.
I cannot believe the success of what you've done, and I cannot believe the success of your pupils. This year, more than ever, I think, they have reached A levels and A stars and places at Oxbridge and other universities. It is essential for the art history of our nation to keep finding the most talented people from all different backgrounds, from all different parts of the country, from all different interests. So long live Art History Link Up and congratulations to all of you.
Well, those were wonderful messages, everyone. So great to be here tonight with you. It's been such a great privilege for me over the last few years to be involved with Art History Link Up. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed during the very difficult months we've had has been actually joining the classes online, which I would normally do physically in the space. And actually, as Jussi was saying at the beginning, you don't need all sorts of things to think about art history. All you actually need are your eyes and a brain. So it's something that we all can do and we all should do because it can be transformative to so many people's lives. I mean, if I can say a wee bit about my take and my coming to art history, like you, I never had the chance to study it at school. It wasn't an option. And in fact, I was told at one point that it was only if you were incredibly stupid, you might be allowed it. And nobody was stupid at my school, so it wasn't there. But I grew up in a really divided society. I grew up in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, and images were used in all sorts of ways to position you, to place you, whether it was the flags that were flown outside your streets, whether it was the colour of your pavements. And so I could see that, you know, visual things were really, really, really important, and that it was only by engaging with them and thinking about the history of them that they could really change. Now, I'm afraid I left Northern Ireland, which was probably a very terrible thing to do, but I've always felt that as an art historian, you have a real responsibility that is not just to the time you're studying, but to the time you're living in, and to how you think about mediating between the past and the present, and using, if it doesn't sound too simplistic sometimes, the lessons, if you can say them, of the past to help us navigate really tricky situations too, and also to be aware that sometimes we won't get them right either, but we have to try. We have to think, what would you really like to see museums, galleries, cultural organisations doing to be able to have that conversation going? Any ideas?
I think it's very important that galleries and museums acknowledge their histories as well as institutions and their place within politics, and not to shy away from it and to be open, because the only way that we can progress and we can appreciate the artworks and the institutions themselves is if they come clean. And I think that's something that's very important, particularly in the UK. And I was wondering what you think the National Gallery should be doing in response to that as well.
Well, it's a very good question. I think we all have to be open to what we do, what we represent, and what we hold. I mean, the National Gallery is a collection of Western painting. It's a collection that's predominantly made by white men. I think there are lots of other stories that can be told with that collection, and also ways in which that collection can be open to others. So I think we have to we have to use what we have and the people we have and the people who are coming and visiting to make more of it, because the sweet spot in museums is between art and people. And so I think that way we'll be able to find a solution with working with audiences and non-audiences, and with people like you, to find a way to, you know, you've talked about the great experiences you've had in galleries. Let's see how we can make that possible for other people as well. There was one thing, I know you were all very keen to talk about the future of art and the future of art history in COVID, in these difficult times we're in. And I wondered if any of you had anything you wanted to share with us on that point.
I think making art more accessible onto different platforms, for example, social media is really, really used a lot by the youth. And I think, especially in disadvantaged areas, sometimes people don't feel welcome in galleries, and I think that's one thing that has to change. Before I had started Art History Link Up, sometimes I didn't necessarily feel that I could walk into a gallery. I didn't feel as if I could be part of that community, and now I do. So I think that could be the journey for everyone.
I think that's a wonderful point. Thank you for your openness tonight. Thank you for your commitment to the course, and many congratulations. I think the future of art history is going to be really safe in your hands. So thank you.
A female artist depicting another female artist. So it's a very rare work from 1926. And we currently have it estimated at £5,000 to £8,000.
I was just really drawn to it because of the colour palette, and it's so muted compared to the other paintings in the collection. I guess the greens of the background, they sort of blend into the brown, and it sort of creates like a homely, cosy feeling as if you're with this woman personally. And I think that is to do with the fact that it was painted by a woman, and how like the male gaze is completely removed from the situation, unlike this one. So it's like she's a friend, someone you feel comfortable around, you feel safe with her. And I think it's like about her as a person, and even though she's looking away from us, we feel connected to her.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there is something really sensitive and personal about the picture. But you do kind of get the female eye here.
Yes, I think it is important that we see women being painted by other women, because it's different when you can identify with someone, when you can identify with the sitter, and the sitter themselves feel more comfortable when they're not being sexualized in the same way. I think more work needs to be done in having female artists highlighted, and obviously referring to them as female artists is kind of backwards in its own way, but you have to do that because you can't you can't remove that fact from them because of the society we still live in. obviously work has been done, and we can see more, like, I guess in the National Gallery, having Artemisia Gentilescu's work being promoted so well. So we see some progress, but it's obviously still limited, and it's not a broader variety of women from all different backgrounds and different races. And I think their stories need to be heard because they represent all of us.
So now the David Jagger model resting from 1936, which is one of the top lots in our sale at 60 to 80,000. And Ryan, you chose it because, well, you were very struck by it, weren't you?
David Jagger's had less than 100 of his paintings actually being auctioned that I know of.
Good research.
Thank you. Nowadays, at least, he isn't really a household name. I've only ever heard of him in passing, so it was really lovely to see like something of his work and something so big, and that was actually in his own like private collection for so long. To be here, and also sort of the painting itself. When we look at modern British sort of artworks, we generally think that they're something more like impressionist or expressionist, and he was painting during a time of expressionism, so it was really lovely to see sort of the differences that he in different ways that he sort of painted in comparison to sort of what was in vogue for most of the artists at that time and the art movement of that time.
It's very striking still, isn't it? The kind of wonderful glow of the skin and the kind of chiaroscuro technique is really beautiful. Are there any other details that particularly kind of stand out to you?
I think it's probably the sort of the red hair and the red nails and the makeup that she's wearing. That's not necessarily really shown so obviously in other paintings, even in the same style. You can tell that she's wearing mascara, her eyelashes are unnaturally long.
She's very glamorous.
Yes, she is, very pretty. And she's got like a rouge like on her lips, on her cheeks. Like her face is very like differently coloured in comparison to the rest of her body. And I quite like that because this one's a bit more of a juxtaposition. She's got all of this like glamorous nail polish and like hair, and her makeup's all done, but she isn't actually wearing any clothes. The mustard brings out the warmth in her hair and the nails, and then the blue and I think black starkly contrasts against everything that's going on inside the painting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for selecting this work. It's such a beautiful piece and definitely one of the highlights of the sale. So just moving on to the Patrick Caulfield now. Tall Bottle from 1998. For Maddie, what kind of drew you to this one in particular?
I think I was fortunate to see it on Wednesday, and I think seeing it in the flesh, you realise the 3D elements of it, the materials he's using, and I think it really captured me. Although it's in his style, it's very different to one of his previous works from the 60s. So I was struck by that. Usually it's much more bright colours with a darker outline. But in this one, I saw a reverse of that, and I was really captured by it, almost like a shadow of his previous work. I think the fact that it's a plain background leaves a lot to the imagination. It's a modern still life he's taken from what's been in art history for hundreds of years and really adapted it. So there's no perspective to it. There's a lot of blank space left, and I think that just leaves a lot more to the viewer of what they could imagine could be there. And I was really intrigued by that because I don't think it's one object. It's obvious that the tall bottle is figurative, but in the background you can see almost a doorway open or a place where it's settled, or like geometric shapes coming through it. Almost looks like boxes and all crowded together like a still life would, but he's totally flipped that differently to make it look as if there's only one object, and it's completely in isolation, which I think adds to kind of emotion of it, like an eeriness. And when I was thinking about what other artists this could compare to, I think Edward Hopper would be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because although it's not a person, it's in isolation, and it's the angles, the light, and I think it brings out an emotion in what is usually just ordinary objects.
I never studied history of art, which makes me, to a certain degree, an imposter in my role, but I've been really interested to hear from our other speakers this evening, from Jussi and Caroline, that neither of them studied at school history of art. For me, the opportunity to think that art might be a subject of study, or even that artworks might be things that I wanted to stand in front of, concentrate on, dwell on, was an opportunity that one teacher gave me in taking me and a number of other people who were doing A-levels in English at the time to the National Gallery to stand in front of Piero della Francesca's Baptism of Christ, to read it closely together as a group of 5 or 6, 7 people, and to understand what it was to stand in front of a work of art and have that conversation. In many ways, you're all more qualified than me to be standing up here, because you've now got your qualifications in history of art. And in fact, I wish that I could sign up. I'm thinking about signing up for the next year if you'll have me, Rose. My involvement with Art History Link Up has been to help with a lecture in particular on how we write about art. And that's something that I grapple with every day as both a pain and a pleasure. And I'm sure that all of you have felt that in completing your EPQ essays, and it's something that you'll continue to feel. I just want to dwell on 2 things that I heard in everything that people have spoken about this evening. One is the possibility of what it is to have studied art and to think about studying it further. I think I've heard this evening about how art can be a place to find yourself at home, to dwell, or it can be a journey, it can be a question, sometimes it can be an answer, it can be a dream, but it can also be a reality, it can be a commitment, it can be a duty, it can be a responsibility, it can be a thrill or a consolation or a map or a springboard or a series of pathways. And that's something that I feel all of you students this evening, in what you've spoken about, have really hit home to me. The second thing that I wanted to mention was how art is a conversation, and conversation has very much been the theme this evening. Conversation and indeed art are 2 of the great things that make us human. Of course they are. There are many bad things that make us human too. We know that, alas. And what I think I've really heard this evening is about what that conversation can enable. We heard very strongly about how art is a place, maybe a breathing space or a dwelling place, where we might be able to have conversations that help us think about the future by looking at the past. We heard about how challenging it sometimes might seem to gain access to art, but how open it seems once that access is offered to you, or once you're able to break through what might seem like a gateway that isn't open to you. All of our museums our national museums are free to enter, but I think what we've heard tonight is how important it is that we all feel free to be able to enter them whenever we want to. And indeed, I'm just hugely heartened this evening by thinking about how art, rather than politics, might be a place for us to base our public sphere and base where we can find consensus between us, rather than not necessarily unanimity, but some sort of consensus as we move forward in what are, after all, difficult times. I want to wish you the best of luck in your involvement, whether in formal contexts or informal contexts, in art in the future. And I want to congratulate Art History Link Up for making that all possible as well. Well done.
Firstly, I'd like to give huge congratulations to this year's cohort of students who have succeeded in such challenging circumstances. I attended a large comprehensive school in North London where art history was not on the syllabus, and it felt like an incredible privilege to be able to study art history at university. This has given me not only a lifelong love of the subject, but an understanding of its importance. Our students will help ensure the future of a more inclusive and diverse art and cultural world. By reaching students who would never have the opportunity to study art history at school, we are breaking down barriers to entry, not just into university, but into the wider art world. This will ensure the future health of our museums and galleries. In today's challenging environment, Art History Link-Up's work is more vital than ever, and we need your help with this. That's why we have recently launched our Supporters and Patrons scheme for individuals. Please join us on our exciting journey and sign up to become a supporter of Art History Link-Up. Details can be found on the Supporter and Patrons page of our website or email supporters@arthistorylinkup.org.
Thank you, Karen. It's truly incredible, the support we've received, and I feel the students feel that. I think it's what helps give them such confidence to send them on such extraordinary different directions. Thank you to Jussi Pilkinen, Toby Monk, Albany Bell, and the Christies team, especially AB, who've been amazing, for all they've done to make the celebration possible. And thank you, Golden Square, for the lovely montage that we saw earlier. Thank you to our very special volunteer supporters, Caroline Campbell and Tom Marks, for being so generous with their time for our students, and especially this evening. Our wonderful teaching team, our amazing volunteers, our trustees, our EPQ mentors, visiting lecturers, teaching assistants and beyond. We really couldn't do it without you. Our host galleries, the Wallace Collection, the National Gallery, so extraordinarily supportive of our students and our work throughout. And to me, it's really wonderful to think that we've got these cohorts of art history students who studied A-level art history firsthand from these great collections. Thank you, of course, to all our supporters, and especially our core funders, the Rothschild Foundation and James Allen's Girls' School. The Hannah Rothschild's support has been profoundly important for us, and we're so moved and honoured that she made the video for us tonight, and for the support that the Rothschild Foundation has given us since inception. It really is hugely appreciated. And above all, thank you to our students who give us their trust and commitment, and who demonstrate every day that art history is for everyone. We really believe you can transform the sector, and we're so excited to see what you get up to next. Thank you for joining us, and congratulations again to the class of 2020.